and gentlemen, welcome to the May 2020 edition of The Bizarre Bringing.
Hello.
I'm Bryce Castillo, joined as always with Brant Hughes.
Hi, that's me.
And we've got John Rail.
That's me.
We'll have Corey joining us a little later, but apparently he has more important meetings to do. He's got to do
Classic
business. Whatever.
Got to make that money.
This is the Behind the Scenes monthly podcast where we talk about the things that go on here at Bizarre Magic. All the YouTube channels like Modern Rogue and Scam Nation, the Scam Stuff channel, the podcasts, Night Attack and Cord Killers, Weird Things This Show. Talk about the production facilities, the shooting process, the editing process, all that stuff. We got we got some good topics today. Let's start with one of the big ones, Brant. This has kind of been your baby, and it's as of what was that? Saturday?
Late Friday.
Late Friday is wrapped and complete. You want to tell us about it?
Yeah, so the Zeta Provocation.
Ooh.
It was kind of this series. I guess it ended up only being 3 chapters, but basically Jason had set up this kind of an ARG-esque set of challenges around the property, and basically got Brian to go through each of them and string him along. And there's a little bit of lore in there as well. But yeah, that was a whole fun thing. I think we talked a little bit about shooting it previously.
Right. This was the big scavenger hunt episode, that kind of all day shoot that we had talked about.
Yeah, and it was like a big 5-6 hour thing, and really exhausting. And we just kind of went around everywhere, and we didn't really know how it was going to break up as we were shooting it. We didn't know if it was going to be like, 2 challenges per video, or all of them in one video, or 3 challenges per video. We weren't really sure until I got into the edit and really kind of saw how the pacing would work.
Well, what was the initial first pass edit time? Like, how long of a timeline did you have to work with?
So I probably 3 hours, because we did split up cards, so I didn't import all of the footage at once. I just imported the first set of stuff that we did. And then I just kind of I actually originally had a different ending point for the first episode, but then as I was working with it, I was like, oh, this makes more sense, and then I just got rid of the rest. Yeah.
So I know when we shot it, there were kind of 6 sections to it. Is it 2 and 2 and 2?
More or less. Okay. I think. Yeah. And so one of the things that I kind of wanted to do, because we ended up ending every episode with Brian conclusively figuring one out, and then finding coordinates for a new thing, and then going to the new thing. And we kind of cut there because that's sort of a natural resting point. But it is generally 2 things. The first one is a little weird because it's it's kind of an information overload.
Because he spent a long time on that one-time pad, and it ended up not being the right thing he had been doing.
Right. Yeah.
There was I want to say 2 false starts.
Yeah, something like that. And then also the first challenge wasn't really a challenge. It was literally just here are coordinates. Yeah. So that was kind of a weird one, but it was also just sort of an introductory phase and everything. And then I guess the last one is it was 3 challenges, but really it was 2 challenges. And the last one was, and here's the thing. But Brian kind of turned it into a challenge because he just couldn't find the thing for a long time.
It took so long to find it. That was really funny, him having difficulty, because we on the production side knew where things were going and what the solutions were. But I know I hadn't been out there physically to see everything, especially this kind of hidden thing. And so Brian spending 20 minutes or so
had to have been, yeah.
Not just really looking at the bench. That was clearly the thing he was he would just keep walking around it, going up in the woods.
Found a piece of scrap tape. He's like, maybe this is a clue.
Yeah, and I mentioned it when we were shooting it, and it's certainly not in the episode, but not too long before we recorded that video, I was working on the first pass edit for our original Dead Drop Spike video.
Hmm.
And that video has like a similar thing at the end where Brian's trying to find the hidden thing and he's just like going around in circles, getting close to it and going past it. But in that first pass edit, he talks about how he was playing it up a little bit. Like he maybe didn't know exactly where it was, but he was kind of playing it up some.
Hmm.
And so I was so sure that for this, he was totally playing it up because he was like, he's putting his foot like right on top of it and like wiggling the bench a little bit. And I was like, there's no way he doesn't know what it is. But he took so long that I don't think he was playing it up. I think he just like got too in his head about there's got to be some challenge here.
Yeah, because I know from where I was standing, I was kind of off to the side while you guys were shooting it. I was peeking to try and see if I could see it because it didn't really stick out unless you were looking at the right angle, or if you actually explored it and tried to see what was underneath.
Right.
Any other fun bits from doing? Oh, I guess the other part is that there is a separate challenge within that video.
Yeah, so that was the thing that Brian really pushed for. He seemed to really want something that people could play along with at home. But like how a lot of these go, it sort of came down to me to like figure out how to implement them in a lot of ways. So yeah, there are embedded challenges in each of the 3 chapters, and they kind of build off of one another. So you kind of you use one to not really figure out how to approach the next one, but you kind of combine the solutions to each of them. And yeah, that's a fun thing. And there is a reward at the end of that, but we haven't quite revealed that yet. The reward is about to cut off soon. So
there are limited slots for that reward, is my understanding.
Yeah.
And they are what 80% claimed at this point or so.
Yeah, we have 50 slots and 44 of them are taken.
44
or so.
Wow. Oh wow.
So yeah,
cool.
there's a little bit of time, and it's been fun seeing people figure this one out because the last time we did an embedded code thing, it was nearly impossible. And we've talked about the intents of that embedded code on the show before, but with this one, I wanted it to be a little bit more accessible, and I wanted people to be able to find it, and I wanted it to be just a little bit more friendly. So it's nice to see that people are actually finding it and actually having fun with it and enjoying it. That's cool.
And so it was you kind of had an intentional way when you were designing this new puzzle to make it easier to solve, or
yeah, and I also just wanted it to be less obscure and a little bit more clear. I wanted it to be, I think with the previous code, I had some sort of notion that, oh well, if you happen to stumble across this, if you happen to find this, then you'll know that you have a piece of the puzzle. Whereas it maybe the communication wasn't as clear as I maybe imagined it was. So here I just tried to like make it a little bit more transparent and clear, even though it might be hard to find exactly what you're looking for. I wanted it to be such that if you find like the starting clue, it should give you everything that you need, so that if you find the rest of it and piece it together, for sure that like, okay, this is what is being looked for.
Nice. So overall, now that all the parts of it are out, how do you feel about them? How do you feel like it came out? How do you feel like the shooting, especially because the shooting was kind of run and gun and kind of different than how we normally do? How are you feeling? How are you feeling?
I enjoyed it, and I think a big part of it is the fact that most of these episodes got a little bit more time than they usually get. I know the first chapter got an extra week on the edit schedule, and then the last, I feel like one of them got like a couple days or something.
Yeah, the last one was supposed to be a Wednesday, but we bumped it to Friday.
Right. And man, like I've felt the constricting deadline as like kind of inhibiting what I can do with episodes for a long time. And so it's nice to just like get a little bit of that breathing room. Sometimes it's tough because it might get pushed back like last minute. So I in an ideal world, right? Like you have a deadline at the beginning, and then you're able to like spread out your priorities across that entire working timeline. But I mean, regardless, it was really helpful. So I like the way it came out, and the feedback's been pretty positive, even if it hasn't exactly blown up in huge numbers or anything.
Yeah, they seem to dig it. Sorry to interrupt. Can you tell me about the title?
Sure.
The Zeta Provocation, thus spoke Zarathustra.
Yeah, so spoilers.
Oh, unless this is a clue. Are we giving away a clue?
No, it's not a clue. It's just if anybody doesn't want to know what some of the lore payoffs at the end of the last chapter are, then go ahead and watch that first. But as we find out in the redacted classified document at the end of chapter 3, we find out that the organization is not actually called TMZ Cobra. In fact, Jason, the operative named Cobra, has been exposed to the changeling alien for so long that his mental faculties have been deteriorating, and the organization TZM he has been calling TMZ Cobra. And so TZM, I want to say, is like the Zeta Mandate. And so I just wanted the Zeta Provocation. It's where Jason is provoking Brian into going through this whole challenge. And I liked kind of teasing that payoff from the beginning by that being the name of the series. Also, I think it's just like a cool series of words.
It is.
So
very cool. Any other last thoughts on the Zeta Provocation series? I guess
Electric Boogaloo.
I guess we've kind of finished it. It's how are you itching to do more embedded puzzles, Brant? Given how well, I mean, at least the solving of them is going.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I guess same as last time. Like if there's an appropriate place to do them, I got no problem with it. I think sometimes it can be fun to like figure out ways to hide stuff. But it's not something that I'm like really pushing for anytime soon.
Nice.
As far as these series, the first pass edits have been postponed. Just want to note that because obviously we're not like trying to like boost out our coordinates or anything. But they are exported and rendered. So at some point in time when that is a thing that we don't mind being like super publicly shared, then that'll just get posted to patrons. And one last thing on that, I just wanted to make a quick note of like Jason's puzzle construction for this, because there's a little bit of a different language that you have to use than say something like the embedded puzzles we use for the viewers.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. I would be interested to hear what lessons Jason learned from it, because I think some things worked pretty well and some things didn't. So, like Brian actually clued into a certain language that Jason was using, which was really interesting. That anytime he moved to a new location, he would be given some information, and he would either, with that information alone, be able to find the next coordinates, or with that information plus one of the tools he found early on. So there was never like a mixing of multiple tools at any given time.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that screwed up Brian at the beginning was receiving all the tools at once.
Yeah. I think if that was a thing where maybe they were numbered, or there was iconography to go along with them of like, this is the fire, and there's a little fire token somewhere at the location. I think, or
even just like doling out the tools or something, where maybe if God, I don't even remember how he solved the challenge once he got the box. But if
I think we kind of helped him with the phone number one. I think we kind of helped him with that.
Oh yeah, there were some vague hints, which also like that's a big difference between like the viewer puzzles and these is that clearly we're putting on a show and everything, and we don't want to tell Brian the answer, but at the same time we can't sit there for 2 hours watching him not do anything.
Right.
So
Especially when like once he had that one-time pad, he wanted to use it for everything.
Yeah.
And
yeah, literally every single stop.
and it was meant for the last bit. So that's
yeah, and so
tough.
yeah, so we would kind of feel out like when like a big thing we did is telling if he was stuck on something for too long, we would just tell him whether he was like on the right path or not. Like if he was doing something that is just like not helpful at all and should just totally be ditched. So that way at least like we're not telling him what to do, but we're saying, hey, this isn't helpful, you should keep brainstorming.
Yeah,
stuff like that. But yeah, I think a thing Jason could have done is like if there's a tool that is being used for a challenge, give him the tool in the step before it or something like that, instead of all at once. And I think there are like little things like that could have been tweaked to make it better. But overall, I think there was just like enough thought and attention put into the entire collective piece that it kind of washed over those problems and still made it like a really enjoyable experience.
Nice. Yeah. Very cool. There's your Zeta Provocation update. Boo-boo. We got in terms of talking about other big things going on. About 2 weeks ago, I teased this out last episode of this show, and we ended up doing it. We ended up starting it. We are a partnered creator with TikTok. So we are making some TikTok videos on at Modern Rogue on TikTok. It is mostly Scam Nation content, but we have plans in place to also do some Modern Rogue DIY sciencey type stuff as well.
Yeah, I was kind of curious about that because it does seem, at least right now, it does seem very Scam Nation. So I was kind of confused by the Modern Rogue name.
There were reasons that it's unveiling the way it is, but we do also, because it's very easy for us to do the magic stuff, especially now where there's not a lot of time with Jason, and so there will be some mix down the road, but right now we have a certain number of videos that they would like us to make in a certain time, and we gotta make videos. So we have I think we've been doing it for about 2 weeks now. We've been doing 5 or 6. I think we've been doing 6 videos a week. Just little. They're a maximum of 1 minute long. Some of them are 2-parters of like, hey, here's grab some matches and set up this puzzle. Can you do it? And then a second part explaining the answer. And it's been very interesting to see what takes off, what doesn't, and how much time it takes for something to kind of take off. Oh, it's interesting looking at the numbers on the web because these play counts look way lower than what I've seen via the app. Via the app, it says we've got like over 1 million plays across these like 15 or 16 videos. But looking at it on the web, you would be hard struck to find like 500,000 maybe. So that's interesting. Like TikTok is such a weird thing because it's very strongly algorithm based, right? For most people, they just open up the app and you just look at whatever's in front of you and you swipe and you go to the next thing. You can choose to follow people, and we've gotten a good number of followers and a lot of interesting like feedback and comments. It reminds me of like kind of old days of Scam School, where like, oh no, they made a cut there, so they were hiding something. There's a magnet in the cork. The video's reversed. They reversed it.
I want Brian to do my lecture rant video idea where he just explains that it's never a magnet.
I guess so, but I think it's also funny if people just keep thinking it's magnets and stuff. And that's part of the mystique. There's a whole I don't know, but it's really interesting, and we're like a verified or partner account on TikTok, so we also don't really know how much that algorithm also gives us a boost in that way. It's really like parts unknown on TikTok. But they have a lot of really interesting things. If you're just like an everyday user of TikTok, there's a ton of music you can just use for anything. When we're doing these partner videos, we have a certain library of music that they would prefer us to use. So we're not playing Meg the Stallion or anything like that. But they also have like interesting editing tools. They have on-screen text tools that are really clever. They're not like perfect tools. They're not great to use. It's kind of got the Instagram problem. I always have this whenever I post, especially videos to Instagram, where like it's all touch-based. And so if you're scrubbing along to find like a cover frame for a video, and you find it, and then you lift your finger, and lifting your finger makes it change to another frame. You have that with text. Like you can set durations for text. So I get that a lot. They have a bunch of filters, a ton of effects. They've got like, you can do a little A/B poll sort of thing. You can add GIFs. It's really cool. I don't know. It's kind of cool to try something that is kind of just like, let's burn everything down and try again. Let's just build it from the top, from the bottom up. And try to put in all these tools for creators, to make it a place for creators, not just to like upload, but also to like make inside the app.
I have a TikTok related question. Maybe this is like old man out of touch kind of thing.
Sure.
I feel like I remember TikTok being a thing where it was mostly just videos of people with audio from other videos. Is that still a thing? Was that never a thing? Is there like a new thing now? Is it like now there's original content as well?
So
what's the situation on TikTok?
The situation is so yeah, when you make a video, you are making audio for that video. So someone can click on, there's a little button at the bottom of the videos that say if there's a song, it says who the song is. If it's just your thing, it says your username. You can tap that and use that audio in a video. You can also do duets where you're recording a thing and that video is posted side by side with the original video. You can make like picture-in-picture reaction videos now, like natively in TikTok. And so that is all still there, right? It's still like, there's still a lot of like weird lip syncing things, dancing videos and all. And also there's original TikTok content that, especially education, like a lot of the thing that we're doing with TikTok right now is focused on education or DIY content, not like, I think they sent us some paperwork, and one of the things was like, no dancing content. Please, no dancing content.
Brian can't teach them to dance?
I think it said like no lip synced dancing or something like that. It was a very
But if Brian wanted to teach a dance move, he could?
I think it would be I think that would be outside of the subject matter that
but he could teach a dance move.
He can do whatever he wants. But I don't know. I guess I don't know the specifics on that. If it was a dance move, yes, it couldn't. But we couldn't have a video of him doing like Doja Cat Say So. Like you couldn't, you couldn't do it. The wording on it was very particular about like none of that.
But he could teach his pop and lock routine.
I don't believe he could. I physically don't think that he could.
Doing strictly education on TikTok, giving out toothpaste at Halloween.
Well, but education.
It's like we see there are a bunch of kids here, and we're gonna teach them a lesson.
It is a little toothpastey.
I mean, I think on paper it is, but when you see it in action, it feels
the ends justify the means.
no. Yeah, the bad ends of like educational content. Because of the format, because you really are limited to 1 minute. You have to like all of the stuff when it comes to like doing them, especially with the magic stuff on YouTube. It's like you have to be interesting in the very moment, and then you have to teach it very concisely. And there is a huge section of TikTok that is really big on like basic education stuff and like creative stuff. Like if you are in the creative space, if you're painting, drawing, whatever, the photography is a big one. There's like a huge demand for that stuff too. And so I think it's one thing if it's like, I don't know, public access, Sesame Street, whatever.
But this is more like Bill Nye in the 90s.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Before he became a curmudgeon.
Yeah. Before he became that guy.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, you got to reach the kids where they're at.
Yep.
Yeah. And
they're not in school anymore, so like you got to teach them somewhere.
I mean, also, yes. One of the channels that I see pop up every so often, like as an adult, as an almost 30-year-old adult, a lot of this stuff that is in the educational realm, like I look at it's like when you go on Today I Learned on Reddit, and they're like, today I learned that apples are red, or some really like basic thing that adults know. And so whenever I see like basics of finance, like here's how you fill out a check, like all of that stuff, then that's when it feels like that. But I think in our niche, we are pretty unique. We're pretty unique.
You're teaching the kids the information that schools don't want you to know.
That's right. You won't learn this. You won't learn
Too
this.
hot for the curriculum.
Too hot for Zoom teaching.
Speaking of kids, speaking of COVID, I like the dues that me and Brant are rocking. We're like late 80s, early 90s TV stars.
And I just got this because I got out of bed right before the
We got like that shaggy quantum leap do.
Yeah. We're also now being joined with Corey Cranfill. Hi, Corey.
Oh,
Hi, Corey.
hey everybody.
How you been?
Good, man. Busy.
What a dynamic show.
I know this
Very
is
dynamic.
That's a crazy one. So let's move on here. Is this also you, Brant? The productivity and customization. Yeah. Start us off on this. What's this?
Okay, so there were a couple things that were bothering me a little bit about workflow and stuff, and I was like, I gotta figure out a way to fix this. So the first one, I found this product called Aquasnap, and I thought it was kind of cool. It's like window management kind of stuff on Windows 10. Mm-hmm. But Windows 10 has a little bit of that. If you like drag a program over to the side of the window, it'll snap to like that half of the window. But this is just like a little bit more complex and rigorous. So you can do things like, if you have multiple windows and they like snap to other windows, and then you can like move all the windows as one cohesive unit. And there's also like this really cool shortcut that's like, if you want to snap something to a corner or a half of the monitor, then you can just right click on the edge of the program, which is just like really fast and convenient and cool. Anyway, I thought it was kind of neat, and it's they actually do kind of a cool thing where they're like, hey, there's a free version and a pro version, and basically you can have like a 60-minute trial of the pro version, and you could just up that as many times as you want. We don't care.
How does it work with Premiere? Does it work any differently with Premiere than regular programs? Because with Premiere, you can break it up and separate it,
but that's all in one window. I would
Yeah.
imagine for Aquasnap that is considered all in one window.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I guess it would be interesting because you can I guess pop out panels to their own discrete mini windows.
Yeah. So if you did something like that, then it would treat it as discrete, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, interesting. So you got Aqua Snap. That sounds neat. I might look into that because I know I kind of like the Windows 10 or I guess some of that stuff started in 7, I think. That snapping stuff is all right.
Yep.
But it's a little finicky. It's easy to get off the track for tiling and stuff.
And you also just can't do like with native Windows stuff, you can't like really do thirds appropriately.
Right.
And with this monitor, it's wide, so it makes a lot of sense to have thirds or fourths even sometimes. This has just helped me do that a little bit easier. Something I'll look into if you've had similar problems. Another thing, I got a Stream Deck.
Oh, nice.
And I am loving my Stream Deck.
Stream Decks are super cool. Do you guys know the Stream Decks?
They're in anything buttons.
Oh, you got the
casing.
big one too.
Yeah, you got.
I got the big one. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna hate myself if I don't.
See, I have the mini one, and I think I got it on sale. I immediately regretted getting such a small one, but. The Stream Decks. These are an Elgato product.
Wow. So have you moved, Brent? Have you moved beyond your other one?
Because you had a
Novation.
Novation.
Damn, I guess so.
You had a Novation pad, right?
That is no longer in use.
Right, and yeah, so I've kind of took this out. This was the really nice thing about this control pad, this kind of macro pad, is that, it's got a little bit of memory on it. So you kind of load it up with what you want the keys to do, and it works on any computer.
Yeah.
Which is cool, but I only use it on one computer.
Yeah, I did like that about it, but the reason I went with the one that I have a little macro pad, but it was like half the cost. I'm like, well, if it could do pretty much everything that could do, but it's half the cost. Mm-hmm. But I do see the thought behind going with an Elgato.
Well, and
that is pretty sexy.
I've always been of the same mindset. Like, those Novation pads are very cheap. They're easy to program macros. You can do keyboard shortcuts relatively easy, and they'll stick around. But I think the big selling point on the Stream Decks is that the software to program them is really good and has a lot of integrations. Like, especially if you're talking about streaming stuff, like all of the streaming software has stuff built in, or people have built in plugins for it. There's a lot of plugins built in for other features, and a lot of stuff that like the Launchpad I just couldn't figure out without making this huge kludgy thing of like switch to this specific program and hit this specific key and then wait a half second and do the software is really, really intuitive in that way, and so I think it is a markup, but I think it's really worth it.
Yeah, I definitely feel like I've been able to do more with the Stream Deck and more easily. And then like the most clutch thing about the Stream Deck, in my opinion. So like the Genovation control pad, it's got like 24 keys or so. Mm-hmm. The Stream Deck, I got the big one, so it's got a little bit more. It's got like 32 keys. But the great thing about it is the profiles. So that way it's like, this thing is almost everything except for the top row is strictly Premiere shortcuts. Mm-hmm. It is just like, oh, here's press this button and move the audio, normalize the audio to -4, normalize the audio to -30, delete all empty tracks, whatever. With the Stream Deck, it can auto switch profiles depending upon what program is active.
Ooh,
so if you have Premiere open, it will show all of your Premiere buttons.
So I don't have to remember that I programmed my macro key for a controlled numeral 3 in order to do different things.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And so you can have some that you can manually switch to. You could have some that automatically switch to. So while
you could like I because I have the mini one, I have to use profiles a lot. So like when I do the marbles stream, which is this like, competitive sporty sort of thing, like I've got a page for when the race is on, and then I have a button that switches it to the next thing for when it's all my sounders for when it's done. It's got like folders. It's very expandable. The only thing I don't love about the Stream Deck, and I'd be interested to hear if you have the same feeling, is kind of slow to activate the keys. Like sometimes when I hit something, and some of these are third-party things where they have to ping Spotify or whatever. But sometimes when I hit a button, it takes a second, and then sometimes it doesn't even work. Like I think the actual responsiveness is not great.
I've experienced that a couple times. I haven't found it to be like a super big issue as far as just like pure functionality. But I have noticed that every once in a while. Like I've got a folder strictly for opening folders. Because there are like a lot of folders that I like to open, but I feel like Windows, like the quick access bar is kind of bad because you can't like rename anything without renaming the whole folder.
Yeah.
So I've just got this set of shortcuts that I can open any of my frequently accessed folders or whatever. But the way that it works is that it does like a key command that's like Windows R, and then that opens the run prompt. And then it goes over there and it types in the location of the folder, and then it hits enter, and then it opens up the folder, which is great and works most of the time. But every once in a while, it's just like it's just a little too slow on the input or whatever, and it just kind of
jumbles itself up. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's the kind of thing where it's like, okay, well, I'll just press the button again, and it's fine.
Yeah.
So not a huge issue, but I have really been enjoying it. And it's the kind of thing where I've been putting it off for like years because I wanted to get it when the Stream Deck originally came out, because I was like, oh, this looks really cool. And, it's nice to not have to like print out a paper that has all of my labels printed on it and cut it out and put it in the thing. It's just like every button is a display. So I can just make a little icon and it's automatically integrated, which is great. But back when it came out, I felt like it was kind of lacking because it is so like software focused, and it hadn't really been like built up to the way that it is now.
Yeah. And they keep adding lots of features. Like they've got multi actions now, so you can set up more than one command for different calls in one button.
I use them. I have the dumbest multi action. It's to make everything go to red alert. So the first thing it does is it plays the TNG red alert sound for like 20 seconds, and then it changes all my hue lights to just like this deep red, and then it pauses, and then it dims the lights, and then it pauses and it raises up the lights, and then it pauses, and it just keeps doing that for like 20-30 seconds. So that way it does the whole like red alert scene.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's cool, and I feel like it's much more built out now than it used to be. So I'm enjoying that.
Yeah. Anybody have any other productivity tips, software stuff? I'm trying to think.
I have one last one, but if anybody's got one, I'll wait till they're done.
I'm trying to think. There's not too much that I use. I use Classic Shell for Windows 10 to kind of replace the start menu, but other than that, I work pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I'm a OneNote guy myself. I use.
Oh yeah.
My whole world lives in OneNote.
Yeah. How does it save you time?
Gosh, because I have to keep up with a lot. So it's basically everything stored in one folder, kind of thing. So I'm sure y'all have used other note-taking software and stuff like that. So
like a Trello or
yeah. But think of that like full enterprise grade craziness.
Yeah.
And so my whole world lives inside of that. So I have one for one normal life, and then one for everything that we do here.
Very cool.
And it is magical because it also you can do all kinds of stuff with it. All the Word documents and all the Office stuff that I use daily.
Yeah, because that all
syncs
and you can share it and all, and very cool.
Yeah, so that's what I use just to keep up with everything because I've got a lot to keep up with.
Yeah. Do you do any of the handwriting note-taking stuff? Because I know you have a Surface. Do you have the pen?
No, but that's just because me and dyslexia and handwriting doesn't work for me personally. So
yeah,
it just doesn't work for me. Now I know lots of my colleagues and everything do. They use it all the time, but yeah.
I'm getting deep into Dropbox again. I've been taking up a lot of space on the Dropbox.
Yeah?
Because, I've been reaching out recently to some outside editors to help us keep up because we got a busy release schedule coming up in June. So we got 3 videos a week, except for this week. I'm pretty sure every other week, and maybe more. So,
nah, it's not that many, John. It's not quite that many.
I like the ubiquity of Dropbox. I like that it's like on my phone and on my tablets and stuff. For whatever reason, I just get really slow upload speeds on Dropbox, which is really frustrating.
See, to me, Dropbox is the only one I can use because Google Drive is like, see you next year.
Hey, y'all could try using that Microsoft OneDrive enterprise grade stuff that I've paid for and offered to you. But
so like we're doing some of the TikTok stuff, and I guess we didn't talk much about how we're filming it, but we're filming it on my phone using the Filmic Pro app, which is really nice compared to the built-in camera app. You can set your resolution and your frame rate. You can do high-speed stuff. You can also they have like bit rate options if you like really want to be like doing cinema stuff, but it really eats through that phone's memory. But it's kind of finicky to get stuff out of it because you can either have the videos saved inside the app or inside your Photos app, and I end up having to upload to Google Drive instead of Dropbox just because it just takes forever. I just can't get good speeds. Now it could be I have Google Fiber. I think generally those things are siloed off where it's not as any sort of prioritized connection. But yeah, I use a little bit of everything. So what was your last one, Brant?
So my last one is I finally taught myself how to program my keyboard. So my keyboard is Drop Alt, which I'm pretty sure we've talked about on the show before. But it uses QMK, so you can like make any key do anything, and you can also program custom, colors for everything. And there's multiple layers that you can do. It's really neat, really useful. You might notice if you're watching the video version of this podcast, it's a pretty small keyboard. It's like a 65% keyboard.
Yeah, it doesn't have a number pad. The arrow keys are kind of compact under the enter button, or they're not compact. They're full size keys, but they're not separated out like they would be on a fuller keyboard.
They sort of eat into the layout.
Yeah.
And the big downside to this for me was the lack of print screen, which as somebody who uses the print screen like all the time, every day, that was sort of a big thing. So I finally reprogrammed it so that way I have a button that acts as print screen, and I changed the colors and I got some other stuff. And it's actually super easy to program. Like, I mean, they have software for it, and I already knew about that, but I didn't know how to like load the firmware onto the keyboard board. And it's super easy. You just run a script, and then you hold a set of keys to like reset the keyboard, and then you're done.
Yeah.
So that's
cool.
kind of all I got for that. But it's really useful. It's not as comprehensive as something like say a Stream Deck where you can do macros and stuff. But you can still do a little bit more than your normal keyboard.
I have one more anecdote since we're on a subject of learning stuff that's been around for a while. I've started finally learning the system that Bryce has been navigating for the last few years.
Oh, the streaming setup we've got?
Yeah, the streaming setup and the X32 and in fact, the other day, last Friday, Brian was running late and I actually set it up and started streaming it before he got here.
Oh, so you shouldn't give him that. You shouldn't give him that.
No,
make him do his show. That's cool. Yeah, there's kind of a lot going on here, but it makes sense. They've made good decisions with it, so I'm feeling that's pretty cool. Someone in the chat mentions you're talking about print screen a second ago. Productivity tip: the Windows key Shift S is like the new version of the snipping tool. It when you hit that, it like grays out your screen and it lets you drag. I think the default option is to just copy the image. So like sometimes I'll have to open up Paint and paste it and hit the crop button. But I think there's a way you can make change the settings so that it's like you can like the snipping tool, you can get a pop-up window to annotate and stuff on top of it. Yeah, so that's some productivity stuff.
I've never been able to get into the snipping tool.
No,
it's just never come naturally to me.
I like it. It's one of those things where it's really nice, especially if it pops up very quickly. But sometimes it takes a second to load, and then that doesn't. Which is the nice thing about Windows Shift S, is that it seems to be pretty immediate in terms of grabbing the screen and letting you crop and drag.
Yeah, I'm with Brant. I just screen capture and I will deal with it later.
Yeah, maybe that's just like an old head thing where it's like, you've been around long enough, you know how print screen works, and you could just figure it out some other time.
I don't want to be locked into making choices right now. I'll trim it down later when I'm in a trimming mindset.
Just do it. We have another new bit. It's good that we have Corey here.
Corey!
Hey, I gotta go. We'll see y'all guys.
So we have been, I think we even talked about this last month, but we've been dealing with network connectivity concerns here at the property. We've as we found out that everyone is uploading all the time now. And as a business that kind of requires us to be uploading at very crucial junctions, there's not a lot of bandwidth to go around on.
And when you say everyone, you mean people in like the whole country.
Yeah, what other everyone?
Well, when I first heard you say everyone, I'm like, damn, are we all uploading stuff like all the time? Is that what's going on?
Sure. I mean everyone, the general everyone, the non-royal everyone.
The royal everyone.
So, yeah, the human, all of the citizens, the people, on the line are all overloading the line, and there's a long discussion with we have some folks some fans who work in the telecom industry and have let us know they oversell all of those lines.
Yeah, ISPs are fucking gangsters and need to be stopped.
Well, okay, and then that's when we get into the hour-long conversation. But, as a sort of backup / secondary / not even an alternative, it's just like a new facet to our network connectivity stuff. We have this is technically a WISP, right, Corey?
Yep, it is. SimNet Wireless is the company, and they're based out of this Austin area. They do the whole country, but it is a WISP, and so they run off of, depending on where you are, basically any carrier they can handle. But in this area, that we chose T-Mobile for a handful of reasons, but stability being the largest. So we could probably get technically faster speeds by AT&T right here because we're really close to the tower, but their network has not been as reliable, and the speeds vary more.
So the WISP is normally for ISP for internet for your home, right? You would contact a Spectrum, or Verizon has home internet, your Cox cable, like a wire. You'd get cable or maybe fiber run to your house, and that would connect you to the internet at large.
Yep.
What the WISPs do is they do It's the W stand. It's wireless. A wireless ISP. And so we have installed up on the roof. If you listen to Night Attack, I think a few weeks ago we showed the photo of Brian on the roof installing it.
Yes.
Did he finally straighten it out? Is it still crooked?
No, it's still crooked.
Okay.
Don't tell him it's crooked. It's not crooked.
It's how it's meant to be.
It's great. It works perfectly. And so it's like the antenna on your phone. It's like your modem for your phone connecting to, like Corey said, a T-Mobile tower nearby. And so I believe when we set it up, we were doing a million different configurations, but I think what we've landed on is that WISP singularly powers our encoding computer, so the computer that receives our program signal and sends it off to Twitch and creates a recording for us, and our new Opal VoIP device, which we talked about a few episodes of this show ago, which Brant is on this week. If he sounds nice and crisp, that's
I was wondering.
So only those two things are on that WISP, which is about right. I think we get pretty good download speeds in the 30 to 60 megabit per second. but our upload can be around 9 to 15 or so. I think it's got good days and it's got bad days, but I think 9 to 15 is.
But it's rock solid.
It's very solid, and so so we keep the other two computers, our switching computer and our media computer, on Spectrum, where they get much better downloads, but they can have some stability. So, for example, that means that when we do Skype video, so like for example, we've got Brant on Skype here. His video is running through Skype, but the audio is running through Opal. Generally, when things are going well, the latency is such that they actually end up syncing up pretty well. But if for whatever reason the Spectrum has an issue, sometimes you can see the video degrade, or you can see the video go out of sync a little bit with the Opal. And it ends up not being much of a big issue. I've said before, 80 to 90% of the audience for our shows are audio only. So as long as we can keep the audio going rock solid, I really don't care much at all about having lip sync for the video. But yeah, so far we've been doing that for 2 weeks now?
Yeah,
2 weeks.
about 2 weeks. Yeah.
I think it's been going great.
Yeah, I don't think we've had any issues on that side.
Even with hail
and
thunderstorm?
Rain. Yeah, I tested today. We had a thunderstorm come through today. I tested it and it was 20 up.
Spectrum fell off the fucking map, but
Spectrum died, but the SimNet stayed up and going.
Very nice. So that's an update on the new network setup. I think if people who are listening to the happy hours, I listen to that. I don't manage to listen to the Night Attack happy hour, but I know when there are internet problems, you hear a lot of tech talk on the happy hour, and I think there probably hasn't been very much the past few weeks.
Yep.
So that's on that. Let's talk about some Modern Rogue videos that have come out.
Oh yeah.
What would you like to start with, John?
Let's just quickly mention the Diamond Book Club. We didn't talk about that last time, right? Because that came out a couple weeks ago.
I believe so. The Diamond Club book.
Yeah, we did a video talking about the hoax book / real book that got actually published and released, and that was a fun video to make, just because Brian hooked me up with like a huge amount of all the old files and the actual book, and so it was just fun to go through all these crazy TED Talks he did, and just
Oh yeah, because I know when he would go and give presentations, one of the ones that he would do is, here's how we hacked the internet with
so it was
God's first book.
And also, I guess it's a notable video because it's one of the last pieces of footage we have with both Brian and Jason on camera together, so that was cool.
Oh yeah. That's pretty cool. It's cool to see that story get sort of preserved, I suppose.
And it was shocking how many people just didn't know about it, like had never heard about it, and so that was fun.
Well, we generally don't have very good crossover, I think, between the YouTube channels and the podcast.
Yeah.
I think the YouTube channels are, for a variety of reasons, just don't promote the podcasts.
And I got to say, I'm a little disappointed that the book is no longer being published like on demand or whatever on Amazon, like not even a Kindle version.
Well, I don't think it was never on demand being printed.
Oh.
If I remember correctly, this was a few years ago, they did a run of printing the books, because we had them. The store had them in stock. I think we still have some in stock. We made a run of prints, and then it was mostly like the big push was on Amazon Kindle and iBooks digitally. But the company, I guess, that we paid to publish to publish to Amazon, was it AKP or AWP, whatever, went out of business.
Oh.
And so it got delisted and no one noticed, and we never did it. I know that the files are floating around again.
Yeah, I actually have all of them.
Yeah. So I don't know.
I mean, it would literally just take an afternoon of me, Brian, talking with my friend Matt in LA, who has self-published several producers. So it would just be like an hour of work. Yeah.
So we'll see what happens with that.
We'll see.
But but yeah, it's good that stuff is that is one of the topics that, you know, when it gets brought up, everyone gets nice and nostalgic for it, and then can kind of get lost in the ether, right? I mean, it's like whenever I think even in the past few months we've talked about like some of our setup stuff, and I don't even know that any of the things that we've made are like definitive pieces on how our setup is the way that it is right now.
What do you mean?
Like we did a Scam Nation video, or the Scam Nation live stream, kind of talking about some of our live streaming setup, but I wouldn't call it definitive or comprehensive. That was really kind of like by the seat of our pants, and
also we're constantly changing and upgrading.
Sure. But I think over the years we've never had. There might have been one many years ago, but I think in general we don't have a very definitive. Like there was even a Reddit thread over the past week that was like, "Hey, I know they mentioned the setup stuff," and someone pointed to the Scam Nation one, and that's good, but it's not like a sit down. Here's really nuts and bolts of what it is.
Yeah, like there's a difference, I think, between the aspirational aspect of our channels and the DIY aspect of our channels, like the actual like, here's what we do generally versus here's how to do it. Sit down, get a pen.
Brant, do you remember much about the Diamond Club book time? Because you were here during that, right? Is that right? No.
I don't remember if I was working here or not when that happened. I think that might have been
that
like
was before you.
Yeah, I think that was just a little bit before I started working here. But I was definitely around, and I definitely kind of remember that time.
Yeah.
And you know, back then they were so keen on doing that in whatever way they can, because there was like, you know, anytime a Scam School book would come out, they'd be like, everyone buy it at specifically this time, so that way we can chart on these things. And you know, there was a lot of that, but of course, you know, that wasn't crowdsourced quite in the same way. But yeah, that was an interesting experiment.
Yeah. Speaking of Modern Rogue videos, we also had one, John, that you were in.
Yeah.
Kind of concepted.
I just caught
your idea.
It was early in the morning, and Brian was walking by, and I'm like, "Hey, Brian, have you ever made coffee jello?" And he's like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah, like let me just teach you how to make coffee jello. We'll just film it." And so we made a video of me teaching Brian how to make coffee jello, and it's pretty simple, pretty fun. And I got to say, I think the big takeaway that Brian had from the whole experience was that nobody gave us any grief whatsoever for just like, because there was no real good introduction of who is this guy, like who am I? Like I'm not a totally known quantity with Modern Rogue, but we just made a video explaining something, and not a single person was like, "What's going on?" They were just like, "Oh, cool. Yeah, I like coffee jello," or "Ooh, gross, coffee jello." You know, they were mostly all comments about the actual topic. So
yeah, it's one of those weird things where you kind of get the sense that, oh, people, like, we have kind of rigid formats and guides and ideas for how the shows look and what the different concepts for them are. But I think when this was an opportunity to break those formats by not having Jason in there and kind of being a very specific kind of cooking video.
Yeah. And I think it was promising for Brian, because what he said is, you know, his goal is always to create something that is bigger than himself. Mm-hmm. Create something that could stand theoretically on its own with or without him. And so,
though it still had him in it, but I'm saying the idea is there. But yes.
Yeah, we remove one pillar. Maybe next time it'll be Corey and Bryce doing a show.
Oh,
yeah,
what would
baby.
we do?
Yeah, I don't know what to think about that.
Have to figure it out. Maybe you could teach me ping pong.
Oh, yeah, baby. I'm down.
Yeah, and how did that coffee taste?
Terrible. Coffee always tastes terrible.
That's true.
Coffee jello drinker. Because did you try? Because you made the one that you make, which is like got the cream and sugar in it.
That was delicious.
Did you try the one that was just the black coffee? I don't remember if you tried that.
I tried that on camera, and it was bad. It's like coffee's gross, like whiskey or wine or all the other adult crap that
Wine's
you know.
You watch your mouth.
Wine's fine. Well, there we go. There's coffee jello.
Yay!
Remind me of this one. Primitive weapons. I don't even remember this.
Oh, that was another shoot where Jason was there. We threw an atlatl at a or no, this one was yes, it was still atlatl at a
the body armor. Testing it against the body armor. Do you remember this one, Brant?
Yeah, because that was the one where they were like, "Oh, we don't have a javelin arrow. Let's drive to a store so somebody can find a javelin arrow."
Oh yeah, it did take a couple of hours to get this shoot started because, yeah, we what was it, like the tip broke or something and they needed to replace it.
Yeah,
something like that. Yeah,
and then we had our friend Kyle.
I believe so.
Yeah,
that
Kyle.
right.
Just at the end, we just had him get up there with his gun and just take a few shots at the body armor, which is fun. So pretty simple, pretty fish in a barrel episode in my mind. Like not a lot to it.
I remember us shooting that. I remember us shooting that and thinking, well, they didn't really
prove anything?
Do a good job hitting the body armor. Yeah.
Yeah, they sort of hit it like once with an arrow and not at full draw.
Yeah. Which a lot of people in the comments have pointed out to us, but I'm comfortable with that, I guess, because that was what we had.
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, that was a weird one, but it's tough, right? Because it's not exactly precise to aim the atlatl, this throwing spear. It's not easy to aim it.
Nope.
But
I mean, they could also like walk a little bit closer.
Get closer and do it by hand or something. Because the whole point was to test if you could break this. Was it the ceramic scale of the body armor? The body armor is made out of ceramic scale.
No, that's a short-lived type of body armor that he described to us.
Oh, I see. Well, in any case, to see if you could pierce the body armor and render it ineffective, and
yeah,
it's one of those where I don't know that we made it to the end of that one.
Yeah, I wonder if that one mostly comes down to the fact that we just didn't have the atlatl arrow early on, and then it caused this big inflation before we started, and
we just wanted to be over.
By the time we got back and like ready to go, I think Brian was like, "Okay, look, like." We've been here so long. We got it. We hit it once. Let's please just move on.
Yeah.
So I wonder if things were maybe a little bit smoother in the setup of that we maybe would have had a little bit more latitude to
get better results. Revisit.
That's what Brian says, but like
that video was a revisit. That was
that's true.
We can revisit, Bryce.
Just saying we could revisit it sounds sloppy to me. That's like, oh, we don't have to try. We could just not try again next time.
I don't think it's I don't think conceptually it's a bad idea.
It's a feature, not a bug.
But I think in that instance, in that usage, it's tough. I think in that usage, it's tough. So
I just think we can always strive for better.
One last thing, John, is this your handiwork?
It's my handiwork. I think I want to say Brant did some recolor correction on there and made it sing.
So this is from the end of Convergence, the Zeta Provocation Chapter 3.
Yeah, it's just a sponsorship, but I was very happy with how it came out because
So tell the people how it is. So because it looks like Brian and Jason are in front of each other.
But really, they're completely separated, filmed by different cameras in completely different backyards. And originally, I just wanted to have like a literal border down the middle with Brian's backyard and Jason's backyard. And, Brian's hand movements are so wild. I wanted occasionally his hand to cross over onto Jason's side. Uh-huh. But once I shot everything and got Jason's footage back, I'm like, Jason gave me a lot of room and Brian looks pretty freaking good, like in front of Jason's fence. Like, fuck it. We'll just green screen the whole thing.
Yeah, it ended up looking all right. Brian's maybe a little shiny in some of the shot. Like I think if you were really looking for it, you could tell that they're not quite the same.
But like a lot of people think that Jason is chroma keyed out of his fence, and he is really in front of that fence.
Yeah, I think his stuff looks like it was filmed a little more overcast.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
But yeah, so that was fun.
Was Brian shot on a green screen?
He was.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But he was shot outside in front of his fence. So my original plan was after I was done shooting him, I'd remove the green screen, which I did, and get a plate of, just the fence. And that way I wouldn't have to rotoscope his hand on Jason's side, because for the record, I wasted about 4 hours trying to do that on a previous ad. And apparently Premiere does not understand the difference between grayish brown and skin color, like at all. After about 4 hours of trying to get 20 frames to track, it just would not happen.
You tried to do that in Premiere? No.
After Effects.
Okay. I was like, that's problem one, is you shouldn't do that in Premiere.
No, After Effects and a little bit of what's the plugin on After Effects? Not Mubi or
Mocha?
Mocha.
Okay. So I think that's it for our topics. Let's move into some off-topic stuff. Brant, what have you been up to?
So I, things have been wild outside, you know. And I thought, I don't want to abdicate the responsibility of being informed and up to date and understanding what's going on and why it's important. But sometimes you just gotta step back and you gotta like calm yourself down. You gotta have a little bit of escapism, just a little bit, just every once in a while to keep yourself sane. So I thought I would watch DS9, Star Trek. And the funny thing about a show that's built off of like political events from 20 years ago, when things don't change, they're still pretty relevant today. So I've been seeing a lot of parallels in Deep Space Nine, and that's been an interesting thing to see, that like, oh, there are like lessons that they were trying to teach us a long time ago, and there's still problems now.
Yeah, I mean the history of science fiction it parallels the injustices of the contemporary world. I think we have fallen in love, especially like right now, like the cyberpunk aesthetic is such an in vogue sort of look that you kind of miss. Well, actually, cyberpunk has a lot of ties into anti-corporate, anti-capital messaging, into justice for different, in a lot of cases, actual races and species of creatures, but all races, all stripes. It's been there. They've been trying to tell us in sci-fi.
Yeah, I mean, like somebody in chat mentions the Bell riots, which I tweeted about. There's an episode of DS9 where they go back to the 20th century, and Captain Sisko talks about how like, oh, in the early 2020s, there was a place like this in every major city where there's just people living in the street because nobody has jobs or a place to live, and and then there's like an episode where they're talking about like a changeling invasion. They're shapeshifters in DS9.
Yeah.
And they're worried about like, oh, they're going to infiltrate this, or they're going to infiltrate Earth, and they're going to like pose as high-ranking officials or whatever. So Captain Sisko goes up to the president of the Federation. He's like, hey, look, this is a real serious issue. Anybody could be a threat. They might not look like it. They might look like they're totally normal and fine, but they could be a serious threat. And then the president goes, I think you're overreacting. Not really an issue. And then, who's to say how that turns out? Just a lot of like real uncanny situations like that.
Nice. Yeah, Deep Space Nine. John, what have you been up to?
Well, I finished that game on the Xbox 360 wet. I beat it.
You talked about this last month.
Yeah, and I was playing it last month, and I finally beat it, and it's the first video game I've finished in like 5 years. And I gotta say, it was super fun. But the ending, the whole entire ending felt like a slap in the face because the last two like bosses you face, quick time events. The entire last 30 minutes of the game is quick time events. And it's only like 9 buttons. Like it's 9 pushes to win the game over 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. And it's just awful. It's just the most insulting, like I went through the whole game to get to this point, and now I'm just like with one hand on the controller, just following, the on-screen button mashing. And that was it. That was the end of the game. It was very hurtful.
All right.
I feel like that's a situation where, sometimes you watch a movie and there's something that you just look at it and you kind of go, that's a product of its time. I feel like that's kind of the video game equivalent of that, where you're just like, yeah. We learned a lot of lessons from back then.
I hope so, because that hurt. Mm-hmm. But, and total more random stuff I'm up to. I watched the movie Hannah. Did you ever see that little girl who gets trained to be a killer?
No.
It's Eric Bana and a few other really good actors, but it was a solid movie. Like for such kind of a silly premise, like a 12-year-old girl assassin, like they really committed to it, and it was a really well done film.
Okay. No, I've never...
And then I watched another film that probably had like 3 times the budget, Elysium with Matt Damon. And I got to say, that was way dumber and lamer than I thought it would be. And I thought it was going to be really dumb and lame, which is why I pirated it to watch on the plane. Uh-huh. And it was worse than I anticipated. And I was expecting a bad movie for a flight, and it was really bad.
What is Elysium? I don't...
It's another movie by, who's the guy who made District 9?
It says Neil Blomkamp.
Neil Blomkamp. This is his sophomore slump that proves, like what Chappie would later show to us, that he's just not good at stories. He's not good at, like, finishing stories. After his first one anyway.
Once again, what is the film about? No one in this company wants to tell me what fucking films are about.
Sorry.
We just had this
The film is about the literal and figurative upper class members of society living in a space station, and they have machines that cure them every single day of anything you can imagine, and they won't give it to the poor people because poor people suck. And it's about, them trying to take down the man and change the system, and there was no real thought put into it beyond that. Like at the very end, they tried to do some structural like things where there's a bad guy soldier who like gets jacked up and he like gets all healed. So he's in perfect health and he gets an exosuit. And so he's like, it's this kind of little montage of him becoming like an ultimate force of badass evil. And then Matt Damon, who is literally dying of catastrophic toxicity, takes a couple extra pills and like grabs a gun, and that's supposed to be like the equivalent fight is about to happen, like this throwdown is about to happen. I'm like that guy has cancer and took a little extra medicine. That's a literal soldier in literal perfect health now with an exosuit. What? And of course they have a fight, and of course somehow Matt Damon wins, spoilers, and it was just a dumb movie.
It's okay, but also like I don't know. I've not seen the movie. I don't know. Okay, Elysium. There we go. Yeah, interesting. I feel like I've heard Elysium get mentioned, but I've never seen it.
Cost enough money.
I did not mean to snap. What happened was we did Cord Killers last night, and we're trying to figure out what the next thing that we should watch on Spoiler in Time, because Rick and Morty just wrapped up. And Brian had this idea of like, we'll just recommend movies for each other to watch. And so Brian wanted to take the first one, and he had picked Master and Commander because it's the current thing that he's obsessed with right now. And I just like, can you just tell me what the movie's about, please? And he's like, it's like Star Trek, but it's not in space. I don't know. It's like Starship Troopers, but it's on the water. I don't know. Just tell me what the movie's about. So I get it. The metaphors and the illusion, that's all great. I just want to know What's going on?
Sorry.
It's fine. It is not on you. Corey, what have you been up to?
No movies, so we don't have to have this discussion. no TV or movies for me.
But what's it about, Corey?
Yes. No, so I've been super busy here. Been getting tons of new sponsors and then working on a big 30-plus episode shoot if we get to them all soon on the Modern Rogue side. So that's been really dominating pretty much all my time.
Yeah. Oh.
But outside of that, been doing some metal detecting with my daughter.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Have you found anything?
Oh, yeah.
What?
Nothing of value.
Oh.
But it doesn't matter to a kid.
But well,
Because you find the coolest hunk of metal and you've never seen a kid so excited. Like we found a spike in the, it's like a retaining spike. So they hammer it into the ground to hold the retaining fins to keep like water or, like dirt from flowing to wrong areas. But that's the coolest thing for her ever. So that's been fun. And then I've been beating that brushwood, that brown brushwood ass in ping pong. That's my daily obsession. If I can get him out there and abuse him on the ping pong battlefield.
You make it sound worse. I mean, okay.
yeah, baby.
Very cool.
Woo! You should come out and watch sometime.
Yeah, maybe.
And then play.
As for me, I just started playing Life is Strange 2 on the Friday night Bryce video game stream. I started it on this Friday, which is when a lot of the protests around the country were starting. And I did not realize that game begins with an innocent man being shot to death by the police. So that was, but it's a very beautiful game. I think it is. If you ever played the first Life is Strange, which is really about teenagers having teenage drama, there is not as much of that in this game so far. I think it's really nice. So I'll be playing that for the next, I think, 4 weeks or so. On the Friday night streams. And then, I just finished watching, because they have HBO Max out now, Search Party. Anybody know about Search Party?
Nope.
No.
It's Aaliyah Shawkat, who you might know as Maybe from Arrested Development.
Oh, yeah.
She is like the lead in this. It's like kind of a mystery show. Like the whole idea is like this woman that she went to college with goes missing, and even though Aaliyah Shawkat's character like literally only talked to her once or twice, she like gets this like crazy obsession to find and save her, and then twists and turns, and it's really cool. I think it's coming back on TBS in a few weeks. But
what's it called?
Search Party. Search Party. I think you would not want to jump into season 3, which is about to start airing, without seeing the first 2. But I think they're only 10-episode seasons, and they're like half hours. So a really easy watch, and like good mystery, like actually kind of funny, and interesting. It's very like a good amount of tension for a basic cable dark comedy like that.
Speaking of 10-episode seasons, did you finish that Rick and Morty?
Yes, I did.
Oh, what'd you think? Are we allowed to talk about it?
Yeah, that's fine. We've been covering it on Spoiler in Time as well. I think pretty good this season. I don't have the same conflict that I think some fans have of like, well, more serialized stuff, less serialized stuff, more art, less art. I don't really
like. I loved the I liked the finale episode because it was kind of like a little bit of fan service, but it was definitely an episode where it's like I can't watch this with my girlfriend who has not seen the entire thing. So, and to me, I think that's a fun trade-off. There are some one-er episodes and some episodes that tie into the whole thing.
Yeah, and you know what? I'll tell you what. Solar Opposites on Hulu, the new Justin Roiland show. It's if you're looking for not serialized stuff, you could do way worse than Solar Opposites. I think that's really good.
Cartoon?
Yeah, cartoon. Oh. It looks like Rick and Morty. I'll tell you that. It's not Harlan. It's Roiland and Thomas Middleditch voicing the two main characters. It's really cool. This show is also really, really cool. It's called The Bizarre Briefing, and you just heard it. If you want to find out more about past episodes, show notes, and all that stuff, go to our website, bizarrebriefing.com. We do this show once a month, and we do it in audio and video formats, like the one that you are watching or listening to right now. We do this every month. We do it live at twitch.tv/nightattack. And we post to youtube.com/scamstuff. We do it at bizarrebriefing.com or on all the podcast directories. Let's get into some plugs. Corey, are you plugging anything this time? I know you normally don't.
Modern Rogue.
Modern
Go watch
Rogue.
the Modern Rogue.
Here we go.
Stuff.
youtube.com/modern rogue. John?
Twitter, skeptically pwned, stuff like that.
Nice. Brant?
You can find me on Twitter at Gatowag. That's GATOWAG. Also on Twitch, where I've been streaming some Astroneer stuff, and maybe this week some editing stuff. Now that I'm out of the Zeta Provocation thing, and yeah, just most places with that username. Also, Modern Rogue Show on Instagram and Twitter.
Nice. You can find me on Twitter at Brycas, BRYCAS. That's where I post about most of the stuff that I do. The Twitch channel, twitch.tv/nightattack. I mentioned Friday Night Bryce. It's 8 o'clock Central on Friday nights. Playing through Life is Strange 2. I'm going to have the VOD up of that first part if you missed it at youtube.com/Neshcom, NESHCOM. I post some of my VODs there, and for these full game playthroughs, I tend to have better at this one. I just finished up Final Fantasy VII Remake, and so the final VOD of that will go up on YouTube as well. That game's too long. That game is too long for what it is. All right. Anything else? Any other plugs? Oh, these were real.
Yay!
Nice, got it in there.
These were real. bizarrebriefing.com, all of the good stuff. For everybody here, we'll say bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.